Has anyone ever said something to you that was so stupid, you couldn't respond with words? Human, I can't see above 30 FPS anyway. Peasants. My boss recently gave a promotion to the new guy. Instead of me, I went to him and asked what I needed to do to improve so I could get the promotion next time. His reply? I didn't know you wanted to move up. When he hired me, we discussed my ambition to advance as fast as possible. So I mentioned this to him again. His reply? That was months ago. Though. Double quote. My brother went to school with some girl. And she took an IQ test and got a 99. To which he brags, guys, I got a 99. That's almost a perfect score. Congrats. You are almost perfectly average. Right there at the top of the bell curve. An ex-friend told me that homosexuality was wrong and people are going to hell for it. But less than 5 minutes later he admitted that he loved lesbian porn. He didn't understand why his logic was off. Friend's mom is against homosexuality. Friend's sister is in theater where they flock. She's friends with a few gays. The mother started going on about how it's wrong and she doesn't want her hanging out with them. Says it was one of the commandments. That's a really neat looking chess set. Does it work? Double quote. It's a legit question. I visited a friend's house once and he had a really nice bronze wood chess set in his living room. So I asked my brother if he wanted to play a couple games and he says it doesn't work. I was at a loss for words. I thought maybe he's missing a piece, so I look at the chess set again and nope. It's all there, so I ask what's wrong with it? This he replies, picking up the black king. And the whole chessboard with it. Turns out his mom had bought it as a decoration but got tired of people knocking over the pieces, so she decided to glue them to the board. My brother thinks science is useless and thinks I'm wasting my time by studying it and asked me what has science ever done for me? Double quote. It was astounding. Considering at the time he was sat down in the kitchen with an iPhone in his hands. Alright. But apart from the sanitation, medicine, education, wine, public order, irrigation, roads, the freshwater system and public health, what have the Roman science ever done for us? Double quote. Worked at an Italian ice store one summer and lady customer asks what the difference is between lemonade and pink lemonade. Then she asks to try samples. So I get them and come back with 2 spoons, one with white ice, one with pink ice. She looked at me for a minute. Expectantly. I gave her a confused look. And she says, well, aren't you going to tell me which is which? Which one is the pink lemonade? I tried not to be mean. But I just couldn't get words to leave my mouth. She had stunned me with her stupidity gun. When one of my redneck friends tried to explain to me that outer space doesn't exist. What? How? What does he think the stars are? Or that large orb hanging in the sky known as the sun? How does he explain the moon? I'm less attracted to you knowing a few of your relatives had cancer. I'm not sure we should date. No. No, we should not. Subliminal instinctual screening for genetic fitness. At least they were honest about it. Heck, if she ever finds out I posted this, she will kill me. Flatmate told me that there are 2 types of HIV. HIV positive and HIV negative. Every person on earth is born with either HIV plus or HIV. If a person that is HIV plus has sex with another HIV plus person, nothing happens. Same with HIV and HIV. However, if a HIV plus person has sex with an HIV person, boom, they get AIDS. Edit. She actually says a lot of things like this and never accepts that she is wrong. The Titanic was the largest battleship in World War II. Fucking Soviets built an iceberg to destroy it. That crafty bastard Stalin. My stepfather. I can't believe you're even thinking about saving for retirement now. You just started your career. And you're already thinking about ending it? Double quote. I was absolutely silent on the phone. I just did not know how to respond to that. He's in his 40s and he hasn't saved a penny for retirement. Make that clear for foreigners. Does that mean that he has no retirement saved up? In Germany you save up for your rent automatically if you are employed. Self-employed doesn't have that perk. When you say rent I assume you're referring to retirement. But I've never heard it called that. Anyway. Many employers will have some kind of retirement plan that you can pay into. With the money coming out of your pay and them matching a certain amount. At least that's what my employer offers. My stepdad owns his own one-man company. And it does fairly well I think. But he hasn't set aside any money in any kind of interest-bearing account or anything. So he is pretty ill-prepared. Combine that with the fact that he absolutely refuses to pay for health insurance of any kind for him and my mom. And it can be assumed that he's quite the idiot. Yes. She said. If atoms are indestructible, why don't we make everything out of them? Double quote. I had to lay down after reading that one. I hope your atoms are okay. They're indestructible. Of course they are okay. It wasn't just said. It was done. A bunch of friends and I were staying in a hotel for a weekend getaway and a couple of us decided to leave notes for one of the rooms for challenges to complete through the weekend. Well, one of them said, microwave something you shouldn't. Alright. So I figured she would go ahead and microwave a cup, a towel, etc. Something simple. No. I was very wrong. She comes running into our room, joined rooms, BTW, and says, I microwaved the remote. I thought she was kidding for a second until I still heard the microwave and suddenly smelled electric fire. I literally had no words. I ran to the microwave and unplugged the thing because I didn't want to touch it. It smelled so bad for the next 2 days. We all had to sleep in one room. We would have never gotten involved in Vietnam if Japan didn't bomb Pearl Harbor. Girl in my class in high school years ago. The class went silent and then erupted in laughter. Someone I know who's against weed claimed that weed particles stick to clothes forever. And that someone they knew, who hadn't smoked in 2 years, was kicked out of the army for having particles attached to trousers. Despite these trousers having been washed multiple times during these 2 years. This was one of the arguments used to ban weed being brought into the house. Not smoked in the house, just it being brought into the house. As they were worried about going through airports and getting caught. Which at the time left me speechless, and only later did I realize just how many flaws there were in this argument. I had a mouth infection when my wisdom teeth started to grow in. I was prescribed antibiotics and painkillers. They were just extra strength Tylenol. I've been taking the antibiotics 3 times a day as the doctor told me to. One day my roommate approached me and begged me to stop taking the antibiotics because she thought I was getting addicted to them. I was speechless. I can't believe I had to explain to her what antibiotics are and how they are different from painkillers. To make things worse, she's a biology major. You would think she would know the difference between antibiotics and painkillers. I'm way late to the thread, but I had a great experience at a Wawa the other day. I was in line, buying some milk, already past the giant. Didn't feel like turning around. And a woman and her 13-year-old kid are in front of me in line. She also is buying milk. Though hers is 2% and mine is whole. She is also buying 3 candy bars. And 2 ice cream sandwiches. She looks over at my milk, thinking it was hers. And then says, oh, that's not mine. That's whole milk. That stuff will kill you, you know. My friend and I were being silly and writing haikus. And mine was about me being Vietnamese. And how another Asian friend and I are not twins. One girl heard it and this conversation started. Huh? Wait. You're Asian? Me. Well. Yes. I thought that was pretty evident. Huh? I thought you were Vietnamese. Me. Wait, what? Huh? I can't tell the difference between like Asian and Japanese. Although it wasn't actually said to me. I can't let this post escape without mentioning one of the first British Big Brother contestants, a young woman by the name of Jade Goody. She has sadly passed away now. And while I don't like to speak ill of the dead, here are some of her gems. Rio de Janeiro. Ain't that a person? Double quote. Saddam Hussein, that's a boxer. Double quote. A ferret is a bird. Double quote. About peacock's tail feathers, you see those things. Don't think I'm being daft. But them things that look like eyes. Are they their real eyes? Double quote. So my family was getting together for Thanksgiving dinner when my cousin comes out with this gem. Plymouth Rock, wasn't that where Jesus had the Last Supper with the pilgrims, and that's why we celebrate Thanksgiving? That same night she asked if the Pope was the King of Canada, but that's not all. Her mother is on the same level. I once told her that there would be a beetle shower and had her ask me what a beetle was. She also had no idea who won the Civil War until she finished watching the North v South miniseries, so at least my cousin comes by it honest. Friends X. If the Big Bang created the universe, then how did it also kill the dinosaurs when they were a few thousand years apart? Double quote. She is half right. The Big Bang technically killed the dinosaurs by setting a long chain of events in motion. But it was a little more than a few thousand years. I vividly remember the first time I encountered a creationist. I was 18. He was probably 19 or 20. One day at work, I innocently said something about something in the building being millions of years old, and he started telling me about how the world was 5,000 years old and dinosaurs didn't exist. I had no idea what to say. I had never encountered that before. So I just sort of walked away. Wait. Is English not the main language in Paris? That's what it is in movies. Double quote. Coworker said this and I walked out of the room. I actually encountered some American visitors some years back who thought German was English spoken with a funny accent. They got this impression because the Germans tended to speak English in mixed company, while the French would generally just carry on in French. I told my dad, stop leaving the door wide open. You'll let the bugs in. He told me there's no bugs during the day. They only come out at night. A few minutes later a giant bee flew in and he spent 10 minutes trying to get it out of the house. We were having sushi and we were telling my brother-in-law that most wasabi is made from dyed horseradish. He didn't believe us, so we called the waitress over and asked her what the wasabi was made of. She said it was made from wasabi beans. If that wasn't bad enough, she came back to the table later to correct herself. She said that she was wrong, that it was actually made from wasabi peas. If you know anything about cars, my dad once called it a Cadillac converter instead of a catalytic converter. His reasoning? Cadillacs are quiet luxury cars. The converter makes the exhaust quiet. That's why it's called a Cadillac converter. Double quote. I was eating dandelion greens in the front yard as a young teen. The young neighbor girl playing with my little sister asked if she could try some. So I told her to ask her mom because my parents had always told me to ask a grown-up before eating plants at that age. People don't just eat plants that grow out of the ground. That's not natural. I heard her mother exclaim. That had to be 20 years ago. And it's still the dumbest thing I've ever heard. A friend of a friend was reading a newspaper about some stuff happening in England and asked if England was the capital of France. She was 22 at the time. We were 4 people just staring at her. My sister called me up last November all excited and said to me, did you know Thanksgiving is on a Thursday this year? I mean, I guess whoever decided to schedule it this year was busy on Sunday, and mind you, she's going to be 30 this year. My grandfather said to me the other day, whites and Negros are not meant to reproduce with each other. If they were, why do their babies have mixed skin color? I just stood there and stared at him. And my grandmom frowned. Probably thinking, oh, not this shit again. It's kind of funny because his theory doesn't even make any sense. Guy at work. Talking about our, Norway's, pension fund. He says that if you split it among the populace, every person in Norway would receive around 100 million NOK each, about $15 mil. I tell him he is way off. And say it's less than a mil each. I look it up and say in 2012 it was 800k. He then replies with, well, it's grown a lot since then. It has doubled. So it's about 100 mil each. I just left the lunch table and walked out. I work with a woman who, despite being 29, acts roughly like a sophomore in high school. Gossipy, catty, airhead. She is basically your stereotypical blonde ditz. We were talking one time about vacationing and drive-in movies come up. Oh. Well, there's always the one at Weirs Beach in New Hampshire. Remember Weirs? Good times. Right? That boardwalk is great. Oh. Yeah, I mean I like the beach and all because you know, I like to tan and stuff. But I don't like to go to the Weirs because my dad says that Charlie's Angels are always there. Double quote. I gave her a beat. You know. Expecting it to be a joke. I sat waiting for some type of wry smile or something. Just dead. Vacant eyes looking back and waiting for my response. The. Nah. FCK it. Yeah. Welp. Better check my email. Double quote. Walk back to Cube. Keel over laughing. The Charlie's F-King Angels. I had a CPS client with 3 kids, and one on the way. Awesome. Who was meeting with me as part of her conditional custody. As in, don't do these things. We'll take your kids away. She also had to pass her drug tests and try to get a job. So a couple meetings in, I get a call from her worker letting me know that she failed her drug test and I need to go in and educate about the potential side effects of drug use on a fetus. Not to mention the fact that the court is ordering her to stay clean or get her kids taken away. So I walk in. And as she is guzzling her quart of Mountain Dew, I'm explaining that she failed the test. I have some literature printed out for her. And she says to me, yeah, I just have morning sickness. So the weed helps with the nausea so this way I can get the proper nutrients for the baby. Double quote. I definitely had an I don't want to live on this planet anymore moment. Especially now. 6 years later when I find out through the grapevine that this woman now has 6 kids. All of whom are still in her custody. Being paid for by our sweet tax dollars. But really, social programs don't need reform. Standing by a busy road waiting to cross. When a group of young girls came up all huddling under one umbrella. It had been raining before. But had stopped about an hour ago. And no one else around was making any attempt to cover their head. After the 3rd time they nearly swung the spikes of the umbrella into my face. I asked if they knew it was no long raining. To which I got the reply, duh. Yeah, we know, complete with rolling of the eyes and sassy head movements. I then asked why they had the umbrella up if it wasn't raining. And was then told, duh. So we don't get wet. Apostrophe. Fortunately, the lights changed and I never saw them again. To this day I wonder what the hell was going through their head. If anything.